I invoke by her sacred name today the earth goddess who has been invoked by many names of yore. Aeon Sophia of the illumined Gnostics, she who is prunikos, outrageous, audacious, daring. Aniruddha, the eternal root ripening of life. Prithivi of the timeless Vedas. Anahita, mother goddess of the noble Aryan races. Spandarmat of the Persian sages. Atsanadleyi, changing woman, spider woman of the noble red races. Sevara, who bestowed the enlightenment of Shakyamuni with the earth-touching mudra. Nut, Mut, Ma'at, your epiphanies before the ancient peoples of Kem. Astarte, of the Fertile Crescent. Astaroth, of the World Tree. Ishtar, of the stars in the limbs of the World Tree. Satanaya, of the Ossetians, heroic remnant of the Aryan root races. Potniatherion, mistress of the animals of ancient Crete. Degom, who is pleth, the plenitude of the Slavic Vedas. Zemlya, deep-rooted ground of Mother Russia. Ostara, who is eternal dawn, the blood mother of the Teutons and Germanic peoples. Coatlicue, snake-dressed goddess of the Aztecs. Itzchel, moon goddess of the Maya. Pramai Torain, of the elegant Siamese. Kuan Yin, treasure holder of the Chinese peoples. Hanwamoku and Hina of the Maori, revered by the southern sea peoples. Izanami no Mikato of the island dwellers of Nippon. Gaia of the heroic age of the Hellenes. Selma, Albina, Alpanu of the lost Etruscans. Leucothea, the white goddess of Latium and mother of the Roman peoples. Arianthrod and Ariadne, weavers of the earth-bound dream. Ceridwen, infernal witch who guards the well of inspiration. Rhea, who flows in all that is, inside, outside, in between. Bhudevi, moist, luminous womb of the primordial race of She, fairy, earthbound Dakini. Kor and Demeter, ever-changing polarities of the Magna Mater, the planetary animal mother. Gaia, blue, marbled, watery world thriving with life, terrestrial matrix of organic light, home and haven to the myriad species. These names of yore precede the name to which you answer now. Vajravilasi, flirtatious lightning, the immediate sensorial body of the Aeon Sophia, planet dancing in fractal light, in silent thunder, perfect mind. Vajravilasi, you alone and supreme are the grounding matrix of human intelligence, the milk-white luminosity that melts into wisdom and bliss, fountainhead of every moment of sensation, support of every biological event, garment of the atmosphere, continuum of animation of all sentient life, and the animated mirror of insentient life, source and expression and indwelling divinity of this sacred earth-consecrated Tantra, this world embodied truth. To you, I direct this vow. By Svatantriya, whose dance is freedom, whose body is the sea of tantric bliss, in the presence of the Nirmanakayas of the 9 generations of the black time of innocence, in the melting core of the ingenuous beauty of our human, earthbound essence, in the galaxies dissolving in the eyes of the earth's abandoned children, in the drift of our parallel world, Andromeda, where our mirror doubles dwell serenely and invite our return until the end of the great Kalpa. In the reverberation of divine pleasure contained in each and every moment and pervading every samsaric phantom, every seeming illusion, every passing distraction, every empty threat, every glance gone astray in abandonment to the addiction, to the pain of not being seen. By the crystalline effusion of Dakini elixirs, tongue on knife, I accept instantaneous transmutation of all pain, loss, confusion, denial, withholding, fear, shame, suffering, defensiveness, miscalculated defiance, false anger, misbegotten antipathy, and wasted sympathy, and all the consequences in this mindless concatenation of fractured intensities. By releasement into the wonder that makes us so, and by calling out your name, Vajravilasi, I take refuge in your attention turned upon us, the sky-bestowing look, the flawless beholding that grants safe passage for all sentient beings and graciously provides their liberation. To you and you alone, I pronounce this vow. Olin, and salutations once again to the Truth Core, whoever and wherever you may be on the planet. What you heard there in 8 minutes is the recitation of the Gaian Tantric vow. This vow is a simple practice available to anyone today to bond yourself into the sacred power of the source of your life, your mind, emotions, passions, everything that you consider to be yourself, without knowing the sublime totality of what you are. It's a vow that goes along with the practice in planetary Tantra, a simple ritual, and I recite that vow today to introduce you to the subject of this talk, which is the ultimate threat to evil and deceit on this planet. And I'm calling it just for the fun of it, white goddess supremacy. I'm assuming, I think I can safely assume, that you've all heard about the terrible, terrible threat of white supremacy. According to some of those who command the media today, this is the most serious threat on the planet, white supremacy. But what is it actually? Well, it's really a straw man argument. It's a bogeyman. It's a scarecrow that has been set up by the psychopaths and enemies of life. And so they claim that this threat ought to be regarded by everyone in the world as something really, really bad. But it's odd, you know, if you look into the circumstances and facts of the present moment, and if you have a fragment, a shred of sanity left in your mind, you naturally will ask the question, well, where is this threat of white supremacy coming from? After all, I haven't seen any evidence of armies of white supremacists threatening anybody. Have you? I haven't seen any evidence, I haven't seen any numbers, statistics of groups who represent themselves in that way. Who are these mysterious, threatening forces? Where are they? Where are the domestic terrorists who are partisans to white supremacy? I see no evidence of them anywhere. I see no proof that such a movement even exists. Well, as you know, or you damn well better know by now, I only talk about my own experience. And in my experience, I have no knowledge whatsoever of such a movement, organized perhaps in paramilitary groups, whatever. I have no knowledge of such a threat. And after all, I have to ask, a threat to whom? Look, let's get it straight here. If the threat of white supremacy exists, it begs the question, who does it threaten? So I won't speak about that movement. I won't presume anything. I won't say that it exists or it doesn't exist. I simply don't know about that. But I do know about something else. I do know what is really and substantially the ultimate threat to the evil doers on this planet, those who manipulate through shame and guilt, those who lie, and they do nothing but lie. Even when they tell the truth, they lie. Yes, I know what is the ultimate threat to them. And so, to put a label on it, give it a name, I'm going to call it white goddess supremacy. Now, I'm not going to define exactly what that is, but I am going to explicitly tell you why and how it is such a threat. Obviously, the central figure, the central force in this thread is the white goddess. And what you just heard was the pronouncement of, I don't know what it is, maybe 30 of her names. And I could have added 20 more. And I might do that one of these days. But essentially, what you heard is a reading of a vow that was written in October of 2008. This vow is not like any other vow you've ever heard. It invokes the attention of a certain power. You've heard her name pronounced many times by yours truthfully, the Gnostic teacher on the internet, the Aeon Sophia. And who's she? What is she? She's nothing other than the plenary sovereign intelligence of the earth. She is the galactic scale goddess who turned into the earth. And so she is the source and foundation of your life and of all that lives. There's nothing mysterious about that, is there? It's typical of religions and spiritual and metaphysical systems to talk about God or the source or the absolute. And yet, if you listen to what is said, you'll find that those pronouncements, those invocations, do not direct you to the immediate physical presence of the planet. Why not? Well, it's due to a fundamental delusion in the minds of those who have created these religions and metaphysical systems. Perhaps to be more kind, being kind is a character flaw of mine. You could say that it's an omission due to ignorance. They don't see that the source is right there, materially, in front of them. It's sensorial. It's immediately present. Why look elsewhere for it? Why suppose or propose that there is some kind of immaterial and non-embodied source of life? You might have noticed that I often say everything is material. I like saying that. It feels really good to me. And I know it to be absolutely true. So one of the things to understand, the primary thing to understand when you hear those words, everything is material, is this: there is no non-material, incorporeal essence of consciousness anywhere in the universe. The beauty and wonder and mystery of it all is just that. It's all material. Yet the material is also the transcendent. Nietzsche said, "I could not believe in any God that did not know how to dance." And I will say, I do not believe in any God, spirit, spiritual being, power of consciousness, power of creation, that is not immediately and sensorially present to me. And if that is true, If that is the case, well, you're off the hook, because there's nothing to believe in. Just look, and it's right there. The white goddess is Sophia, whose garment, whose raiment you see in the natural properties of the biosphere. And if you see that, if you really see it, you don't have to look beyond it. I assure you, you won't want to look beyond or see anything beyond. So the white goddess is your planetary animal mother, your divine mother. It's her power that is invoked in the Gaian Tantric vow. And it is her power, bonded with your power, by your will and by your choice, that is the ultimate threat to evil on this planet. Now listen closely, and I'll tell you about the 3 features of that threat. Why is it such a threat to those who would manipulate and deceive and control or attempt to control everyone else? It's a threat on 3 counts. The first count is this: the recognition of your divine mother embodied in the earth is the key to unity. Unity in truth. Unity in truth is extremely dangerous to the psychopaths and globalist overlords who think they are at the point right now of implementing their final plan, their end game. Of course, there are countless human animals around the world who are onto this game. They're beginning to rise up in popular uprisings. They're beginning to protest. They're beginning to say, I do not consent. I do not accept your rulership over me. And yet, when you look at that phenomenon, you find that often, sadly, unfortunately, those who are taking a stand against the overlords, the archonic freaks who want to run the whole planet on an alien intelligence program, which they call AI, well, you see that those courageous and well-meaning people are greatly divided among themselves. And as long as they're divided among themselves, as long as they don't have an ultimate focus of unity, they won't be able to optimize their own force and defeat the enemies of life. So what can unify them? Recognition of the source. Everyone, no matter what views they hold on any subject whatsoever, doesn't matter if you believe the earth is flat or round or shaped like a donut or an octahedron. It doesn't matter if you still attach yourself to some religious heritage of one kind or another, Buddhist, Christian, Islamic, Judaic. It doesn't matter. Those differences are insignificant They melt away in the unity of that recognition. And that is why white goddess supremacy is so dangerous. It presents and provides the unique opportunity for unity against all other differences of belief, opinion, ideology, and so forth. That is the first count. The second count is that the connection that comes through this unified recognition that there is only one source of life and you're standing on it is supernatural. That recognition, when you grant it to your Divine Mother, brings you into intimacy with her supernatural power. And she is supernatural. The earth is supernatural. Nature flows from the fountainhead of the supernatural. Beauty is supernatural. The processes of your own mind and psyche are supernatural, paranormal, transcendental. That is a powerful connection. To know that and live it brings you to a place in your own life where you realize something greater than yourself, yet it belongs to you so intimately and clearly that it could be nothing but your own at its origin. It's as much your own as your own name, as the back of your hands, your fingernails, the soles of your feet. Supernatural is real, and your connection to it is an enormous and ultimate threat to the enemies of life. It's often said that knowledge is power, and that can be true. But on the other hand, you can know a lot of things and be completely powerless to do anything about them. Isn't that so? But the power that comes to you through bonding, through the sacred connection to the earth and to her passions and her intelligence, that is a power that you can use. You can learn to use it. And that learning is endless and wonderful. And there is boundless richness and pleasure in that learning, in owning that knowledge of the living gnosis today. So with all that said, there comes the third point, the third count. What makes white goddess supremacy so powerful that it can ensure the defeat of all the workings of evil in the social order, and even the workings of evil in the intimate recesses of the human psyche. And what is that third count? It is the racial inflection. Anyway, that's what I call it. You can call it the same, if that is your pleasure. The narrative of the Aeons of Fire, which is the true biography of the earth, describing the origin of the earth and of all species, as well as the origin of the archons, is a beautiful story. The language of that story, drawn from Gnostic sources, uses the word anthropos for the human species, but even more specifically, for the human genome. So the human genome, according to the Gnostic narrative, was designed in the galactic center by two aeons. So the genome is material. Yeah, remember? Everything is material. The genome is a material substance, and it's calibrated and encoded with the talents and capabilities of the human species. The species is one, but as the human genome propagates on Earth, it presents itself through a rainbow spectrum of races. The Sophianic message is the same for all races. It sees no racial difference whatsoever regarding its reception. Anyone from any racial or ethnic group can embrace the Sophianic message. I sincerely invite them to do so. However, there is the racial inflection. This is something that needs to be admitted. It needs to be acknowledged by anyone who is disposed or attracted to the Sophianic message and who feels, let's say, enticed by the power and presence of the wisdom goddess, the white goddess. It's a very great fact that even though the fallen goddess scenario is truly a story to guide the species, that is to say, the complete spectrum of races, the story itself comes into the world through the authorship of one race and one only. That sacred narrative is the spiritual birthright of humanity. But a birthright is an inheritance, isn't it? And for an inheritance to exist, and for you to be the beneficiary of that inheritance, you have to receive it from someone, don't you? So from whom do you receive the fallen goddess scenario? Who were the originators of that myth? It so happens that even though the myth applies to all races, it did come into the world exclusively through one race. And that's the racial inflection. And that's where the keynote of supremacy resides and resonates. In the circumstances of the world event today, the various ethnic groups of the Aryan Caucasian root races represent something like 8% of the global population and shrinking. 8%. On that statistic, you can fairly say that the white races are the global minority. They are the ethnic minority on the planet, considering global population statistics. Not only that, but this particular ethnic minority is the most demonized and attacked group of people living in the world today. Have you ever wondered why? Have you ever wondered why anti-white rhetoric is allowed everywhere and promoted extensively, monumentally promoted in a situation, in a social environment in which you could not possibly argue against any other races in the same manner? Why is it like that? It's like that because what comes through the white races is the ultimate threat to evil on this planet. And those psychopaths and control freaks who think they're going to take over the whole planet they know that if they do not exterminate the white races, they will never succeed. And so by their own action and attitude and agenda, you see proof of the supreme and ultimate threat they face. Now, I've often said, in talking among my friends and allies, I've often advised, never make a threat if you can't back it up. Now that you know what the ultimate threat is to the planetary overlords, the technocrats, control freaks, those who tell you that they're going to change what it means to be human, that you will have nothing and be happy, that they will run every detail of your life on their AI system. Well, now that you know what poses the ultimate threat to them, you might want to consider being part of what backs up that threat. Enough said, and I'll be seeing you in the beauty to come.